And we welcome into Wisconsin.golf, our Wisconsin.golf conversation today is with Tom Shafranski of the WIA. He's in charge of boys and girls golf, and really almost a borderline historic day, Tom, where you had to vote to decide whether to even offer sports this fall in their traditional setting. As it relates to girls golf, it essentially will delay the season 1 week, but was decided today. They were classified a low-risk sport that will be allowed to compete starting August 17th with girls tennis, with girls swimming, and with boys and girls cross country. I guess, first of all, your reaction to the way the whole dialogue went through and your reaction to the outcome of the vote.
Well, Rob, really happy that we're able to offer opportunities to girl golfers and a legitimate, what I think is a legitimate opportunity for them to get, almost their entire season in some way, shape, or form. We can talk about that in a little bit, but the way that COVID-19 is advancing throughout Wisconsin, there's a growing concern for the safety of students. And it just is real obvious to me that we've proven in golf in particular that we can provide practice and competitive opportunities for student athletes in our schools. So the board, who is the governing body for the WIA, not executive officers, look carefully at this through a 2-hour meeting in order to make a decision to allow fall sports to occur, and opens up the opportunity for those who don't get a fall girls season to also have something second semester.
As we look at girls golf now, they start August 17th. It's a week later. First tournaments, I believe, then can be played August 20th. But as you said, we still have to decide or decipher who's in, who's out, as it
Yes.
relates to whether these schools can compete on principle based on what they're being directed by their local districts. Is that correct?
Yes, exactly, Rob. We looked at this whole thing as situational management, virtually day to day. So one of our next steps is going to be to organize a means for schools to identify when they feel it's going to be best for them to participate in each of the sports, so girls golf being one of those. But those who wish to go this fall, they're going to be able to open up then their practices come August 17th and begin to schedule meets as they're allowed at the local levels. So this is going to be a process. It's going to be very interesting at the local level how each of these school programs is going to be able to proceed.
So, Tom, the Big Eight conference has already come out and voted not to offer
Yep.
formal conference competition. So, for schools in those conferences, now they've allowed them to have a season if they choose to, but there just won't be conference duels, a conference tournament. If they decide to do that in the spring as a group, then that's when they would compete. But if those schools wanted to do something in the fall, is that something that you see as a viable option for those schools?
We haven't determined that just yet. If someone's going to have to commit to one season or another, which has always been the case, there usually has been a season that schools commit to, and when they wish to do that. So I don't know right at this point that this is all happening, in real time right here. So we're going to have some conversations about how to handle some of these different scenarios that are going to get tossed our way. We have been having little discussions about them, but no final decisions have been made. We would like to see schools declare which season they're going to be a part of, so that it becomes evident and clear how we can proceed to plan as the year goes on. And this doesn't necessarily mean a full and complete state championship, but can there be some type of concluding event, whatever it happens to be, based upon where schools are at as we get into October in particular, and taking a look at how the virus stands in Wisconsin.
And to sort of clarify that for those who weren't watching the Board of Control meeting, which I'm sure got as many eyeballs as any Board of Control meeting ever in the history of the WIA because of this discussion, that season-ending event isn't necessarily going to be a state tournament, but it could be. I guess sort of tell us where you see that part of the season looking, or how you see that looking right now.
Yeah, it's a monitor and adjust as we go along, and it's going to be monitor and adjust at the state level. I see our role being able to provide flexible, liberal opportunities for girls golf teams to play, and then from there, assisting them, supporting them to help make that happen. In other words, providing those guidelines that they need, providing good information to them so that the kids and coaches and everybody involved can stay safe. From there, it's going to become a local issue for local health departments to work with their schools and then with their school teams in order to determine, okay, what can we allow as far as practice is concerned? What can we allow as contests are concerned? Where can we go for contests? Who can we allow into our counties and in and around our communities to have golf meets and so forth? You know, the PGA Junior Golf Association, the Wisconsin State Golf Association have had a lot of success running their tournaments by following the USGA and PGA guidelines. And we hope that that's something we're going to be able to continue.
And the difference here, some of the differences for those who follow girls golf and boys golf obviously know the difference between the summer stuff and the programming in the school year is you're competing as teams, so therefore you're traveling in groups of 5, maybe 10 if there's a JV component, plus a coach and assistant coach. That's a concern. And then also you know how you run your matches and
Yes.
again practice the safe social distancing. It was very doable. There are some similarities there between the summer and the fall, but in terms of getting there and the idea of competing as a team, what challenges do you see, Tom, that schools and coaches are going to have to deal with?
Well, first of all, the biggest advantage that we have, as you know, Rob, is five players playing with 4 scoring. In most cases, sometimes
Right.
we go with 6, where 5 score or 4. But having that number as far as the teams go, along with a coach, is a reasonable means. But the biggest, without a doubt, the biggest hurdle in the way is transportation that everyone is faced with in the school programs. Getting student athletes safely from one location to another is something that they're going to have to determine as far as how large a bus they're going to need to take now. And that's a real key issue, because in the past, it's primarily been vans that student athletes and coaches have taken from one meet to another. And then as we get to those meets, the practices that are in place of not touching the flag stick any longer,
Right.
those are ones that we certainly are going to adhere to. We just passed a rule this last spring, you might recall, allowing coaches to go onto the greens to assist with the flag stick. Well, that's something that's going to remain in during the fall season. It's just part of, if people don't realize, it's just part of hanging on to your own equipment, dealing with yourself in golf, and not having to worry about touching anyone else or anything else that might have been touched by someone who may have left the virus behind in that location. The other element is certainly the respiratory droplets, and helping student athletes understand the need to social distance and the need to know where people have walked and do your best to stay out of the path of someone where they have walked previously, because those are the areas where the virus can most easily be contracted.
A year ago, we were kind of implementing new USGA RNA rules into the game of
Yes.
golf. Do you anticipate needing conferences or coaches to be able to have to meet to kind of go over what you just suggested? I never even thought about the idea that if one competitor walks down the cart path here, you might want to walk over here, maybe in the grass area to get from the tee box to your next shot.
Those USGA rules are looking pretty easy right now, aren't they, to all of
They
us?
sure are.
And we did that well. Yes, as I said, I have put together some guidelines already, and some elements to that, and it's going to be an expanding document that keeps growing as the season goes along. The thing that I noticed, though, and am so impressed with overall, is that this summer, those policies and guidelines that the USGA and the PGA have put together, really are working at our golf courses, and our PGA professionals and the people at those facilities are doing such an excellent job of implementing them, and then getting, and this is, I think, the hardest part, getting their patrons to follow them, because
Right.
I know originally in those early days, there were a couple of videos that went viral and so forth that caused great consternation amongst everybody. This is one that people have taken it seriously, and for that reason, our golf courses have stayed open and golf's been successful.
And I think that circle of cooperation has helped Andy Landenberger and the Wisconsin PGA run a successful summer programming series. I mean, they really haven't skipped a beat, and a lot of the entities that have offered, and like the USGA with their junior championship, I mean, logistically couldn't do it. And again, there's a pretty good chance that the segue from their season into yours will be seamless.
Absolutely. We're going to be working with Andy, and I give him a lot of credit. It is, I don't care what anybody says, it was a big step to be able to take and get and people can just see this, the issues that are developing on the PGA Tour, or if you look at Major League Baseball and with the NBA, all the different issues that are out there as different programs try to start to get going. Andy's gotten Wisconsin in a great spot. We're going to utilize that in a lot of his expertise now in order to help get this even more solidified and as safe as possible for all our golfers and for everyone who's going to be involved. I don't see us putting anyone at risk, but certainly things are going to happen, and we're going to have to adjust to them as the year goes on.
So just to put a bow on the girls golf discussion, then just had a couple questions about the looking forward. But right now, as we look at timelines, the girls season is scheduled to begin August 17th. Therefore, there would be a point in between now and August 17th for schools to commit to that season. What other timelines do you see a need for? I mean, I guess, for example, when would we commit to, yes, there will be a regional, sectional, state component, or when would there be a modified version of whatever the end of year programming would be?
Yeah, without using a date, right now, a few weeks prior to the start of any, and let's just call it a tournament for at this point for purpose of identifying it, but any culminating event, we're going to need to identify a means for identifying who is actually in. And that's going to include, if you commit to the fall season, and then during the course of the season, your team contracts the virus, are you able to compete based on a date that we'll have to establish and move forward with? So that's something that we'll be communicating with the schools, figuring out. If you take the Iowa baseball situation, I know that they lost teams as they did this process, and it happens. That's something that happens. As you heard, we're looking at options for that, so that perhaps in the spring, that would then be an option for a concluding event to be a part of.
Sure. And then, so what you're saying is that if a school has to drop out in the fall, they could come back in that second season. Again, we haven't talked much about it, but what was called the Southwest Plan, which was going to be, basically taking the fall sports season and starting it at the outset of the spring, and then delaying the spring season somewhat into the summer. That at this point remains a possibility if school districts can compete in that season. There's a lot of things in play after what would be the girls golf season that still may impact girls golf, but certainly will impact boys golf.
Absolutely. This truncated season still is on the table. And certainly as you're looking at the Big Eight and issue Big Eight conference and scenarios, it gives the flexibility for those girls still to compete at this point. All right. Spring of the year, we're going to be looking at additional options for how to handle this. We do feel as though we have some time into summer, but we don't want to go very much further past where we're at. And as you know, we've already had issues as far as getting University Ridge and getting that all clarified. And we certainly want to keep students going to these to University Ridge because of the course that it is and the interest that people have there. So all those are going to get juggled now. We're going to be vetting all these issues out. We're going to be and then having to take it into real time, and as situations develop, be able to look at those and give students options for playing golf, competitive golf in our high schools.
And then, am I correct? If you play in the fall, the season-ending programming would occur in the fall. It's not like you would offer something in the spring that would encompass both those seasons. Is that
Right.
correct? For if the girls choose to, if certain teams do compete in that hybrid season in the spring.
Yeah, again, a little bit early to be saying exactly, but the idea behind this is that it gives options to the schools for a fall and a spring. It gives them flexibility should something happen to their team as well, so that there are continuing ways to keep them involved and give them competitive opportunities for basically practice, some form of regular season that they can do, and hopefully some type of culminating event.
And then the other thing that was brought up today, so the Southwest plan that kind of locked in the fall sports to the front part of the spring and the spring sports to the back half of the spring into the summer, that can be adjusted based on what was passed today.
Right.
And again, not to put you on the spot, but does that leave open the opportunity, because there was some concern, especially with Northern administrators, about playing girls golf too early in that window, that we could see a boys and a girls season or some girls teams playing during the boys season?
I don't anticipate girls and boys teams playing. The idea right now is to find a way sometime early in that second semester to fit something in. Now, yeah, it's going to be a struggle, but I would foresee separate seasons in that time in order to get something done. Please know I am open to getting something for everybody, and so
Right.
this is it could easily work out that way. It's just time is going to tell here as we go through this year, and then as spring comes around, who still needs to be playing, and what can we do for them.
And my last question, Tom, is as we sit here and talk about girls golf, even boys golf, the discussion is pretty easy because there are very good options available,
Yes.
both with sports, other sports that you run, and other people in your office around you. It's not so easy, is it?
Correct. All the way around, this isn't easy whatsoever. We recognize that, first of all, we're dealing really truly with life and death decisions. And that is, and we want to make sure that things are safe as possible. That is our first and foremost objective with each of these decisions that we're making. But we see the value that this has for students to be involved in high school athletics. And I'll be honest, especially in girls golf and in boys golf, the value that has in getting this going for our girls and boys and providing playing opportunities for a wide range of skill players. We just see this as a great way to get more people involved in the game of golf and get them introduced to not just playing the game, not just knowing the rules, but doing it competitively and being able to do it the right way.
Well, I tell you, today was a very promising day for the sports of boys and girls golf. At least we're going to start the school year with the idea that girls golf can be played. Obviously, we've all got to beat COVID, and we've all got to contain it to be able to have this go forward. So we'll keep our fingers crossed for that, Tom, and we really do appreciate your time here today on Wisconsin Golf.
Thanks, Rob. Always appreciate talking with you.